Okay, there we go. Got a recording going. Well, welcome everyone back to White Sands Self-Care Community. As you know, I am your host and your resource for mindfulness and self-care. And I am super excited to have Janine Bolon with us here today. She is such a wealth of knowledge and a great resource in so many different ways. Just to at least tell you a little bit about her, I know she left the pharmaceutical industry after 15 years. She dropped out of corporate America to homeschool her four children, and she has always had a side business in her life. So she shares with others, um, how to manage a well-lived life. Too many L's in there. Well-lived life of children, family, friends, and clients, while not suffering from burnout. And what she's accomplished to me is just really amazing. Her 17 books, 93 online courses, 4 podcast programs, and a radio show all express her desire to share her systems and routines with others. And you can see she's always so well put together and calm, but has accomplished all of this. So Janine, thank you for joining us today.
It's always a pleasure, Laura. I'm glad that we reconnected. It's been a while. Laura and I have actually met each other physically. I like to say that to people. We've actually, shook hands when we were at a business boot camp, and it was lovely the way we kind of stumbled upon each other again on matchmaker.fm, which is where podcasters and people like me hang out. And I was like, oh my gosh, Laura, who knew?
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. It's like how we kind of keep circling back around. And then the more Janine and I talk, it's like, oh, wait a minute, the more connections and stuff we have, it's that we find that are similar. So can you share with everybody a little bit? You have like 4 different shows that you do. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
Certainly. It started back in 1982 when I became part of radio. And I got on to radio and I was the host for my high school radio show. That was the big thing. And then in this crazy time of 2003, I became what's called an audio blogger. And then I was doing Power Women, and Kellogg's Fiber One bars was my sponsor. That kind of lets you know where we were. And people kept saying, "So where do I tune in? Where do I tune in?" And I'm like, "Well, we're not on radio." And they're like, "What, are you pirating the signal?" And I'm like, "No, no, no, we're on the internet." And they're like, radio on the internet, it was like
That weird
constant.
transition.
It really was. It was constant education. And so then in 2016, I had one of my students reach out to me and say, Janine, have you ever done podcasting? I'm like, podcasting? What are you talking about? And he was telling me about this. I went, oh, you mean audio blogging? And he's like, Janine, they call them podcasters now. And I'm like, ooh, so now I was hip with the times. And so I started, it was very natural for me then to come up with 4 different podcasts. And what we did was I started it with the Writer's Hour, Creative Conversations, and that's where I interviewed authors and helped people with that. But the very first one was the Practical Mystic Show. I really wanted to reach out to ordinary people that were having extraordinary experiences and thought they were alone and isolated, and I wanted to start reaching out to them. So that was the very first one. And then we had also the Thriving Solopreneur. And then my favorite one was the 3-minute money tip, just because that allowed me to bring on financial planners because they're so heavily regulated on what they can say, what they can express. And yet I was able to get them on that show because we could have scripts. They talked for 3 minutes, and that didn't get them in trouble with any of their accreditation issues. So that was a lot of fun for me to be able to do that for a community that was not able to otherwise be on any kind of media, multimedia at that point. So those were the 4. And then something amazing happened in October of 2019. We got syndicated. So all 4 of those podcasts became the radio show, The Janine Bolon Show. And so now you can go onto YouTube, and we've uploaded all the podcasts, Janine Bolon Show, and you can get all that for free at The Janine Bolon Show. There you go.
That is fantastic. It's nice that all that work didn't go. You can still group it together and put it all in one place.
Yes. And that was something I absolutely loved about YouTube, because then I could take all that content that was scattered, because you have to remember, we were working with radio programs and all kinds of stuff. I think we were up to 112 different internet-based platforms, and we were on 64 public radio stations. So when you syndicate, it kind of goes poof everywhere. But people would ask me, so what's your listenership? What's your download? What's your this? And I'm like, I'm on radio. I have no idea. Right. And it was like, so my podcasts aren't seen as big because I'm in broadcast media. And so that's always been something that's been funny to me, is that I'm not really seen as a big show, even though I probably have hundreds of thousands of listeners.
I always say it's going to resonate with who it's meant to resonate with.
And that is the beauty of it.
Yeah. Doesn't matter how big or small. It's like,
Mhm.
if you resonate with people and you're providing, and you're doing something good, creating that positive change, I say go for it.
Mhm.
So, so that's something I had learned that was new, because when I met you, I didn't know about your practical mystic show that you had.
Right. A lot of times when people run into me, they know about the Thriving Solopreneur or Ditch Your Debt While Banking Bucks. They may be a part of the author podcasting books, that kind of series. I kind of keep the Practical Mystic under wraps. And of course, where you met me was at a breakthrough business boot camp down in Denver. So I wasn't going to be talking a lot about the woo-woo in that space. So yeah, you're right. We kind of had to go round robin to do that aspect of it.
Well, and it's funny how you call it, the woo-woo, because I hear everybody calling it the woo-woo nowadays. But, through the Mindful Mondays show with Laura Cross TV show, I met up with other people like Peter Parker out of the UK. And so me and him actually teamed up and did Conscious Living Expo, because he works a lot with highly sensitive people, empaths. I've met psychic mediums. It's amazing that there's a lot of people that actually have these abilities or talents and stuff, but they're still kind of afraid to talk about it or to express it. And there's others that are gotten to that point that, hey, this is who I am and it's okay. And that's kind of the community we've been building, is to try and say, this is okay. This is who you are. And it's okay to be that way. Other than having people tell you you're too sensitive or whatever. And a lot of those people are wanting to write a book or put it into a book. Can you talk to that a little bit? Because I know you help people do
Yeah.
that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that beautiful segue. The thing that I like to do for mystics, because there are so many wonderful teachers out there that can help you with your gifts, or people like yourself and Peter in the UK, where you have these communities where that you can kind of expand your gifts and all that. I didn't want to serve the psychics and mystics in that way. I chose instead to go with tell your story. It's important that you tell your story. If you've ever been told this, hey, you should write a book, you should write that down. If you've ever been told that, the reason you're being told that is because there is somebody out there that will be inspired by that story. And so if you want to serve that community as an empath, it's a very easy way to serve that community or serve that reader without causing harm to yourself, or you having to go into environments that are not to your liking. You can stay very much in your happy place or your safe place and be able to write that story. And so that's what I encourage a lot of the mystics, psychics, shamans. They're used to operating in very secluded or very closed groups. Some people have very big communities. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about those that have such tremendous gifts that they don't want to be known in the broad sense. Well, you can write a book and then cater to that to your community, and then word of mouth will travel that story. And so that's how I work with them. Because come on, face it, we've got people that can do psychic surgery. We have people that can pull tumors out of people's bodies without causing any pain or suffering. And so those kind of skill sets, they need to protect themselves in different ways than being able to walk in and say, hey, I can channel, right? Or I'm a medium or something like that. That's very different from somebody that has extreme gifts, extreme skill sets. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So how are you helping them? You have a program?
Oh, yeah, we have a program. It's called The Right Habit. And before, I talk to you about that, just know, if you want to know if it's right for you or not, there's two ways you can get in touch with me. The first one is come to my Open Friday coffee. It's free. It's my open office hours. I have over 1,300 students that are on my 93 online courses. And so that's my open office hours. So it's free. You can come and show up and then ask me questions, because I don't want you to jump into something and then resent the expenditure later. I want you to know that you're in the right place. So that's number one. Number two, I have a book that's being launched on how to be an author. Published profitability is what it's called. And that's on March 14th. And we're going to have that registration link, which again is free, in the show notes for you. But I have the right habit, and that's a $37 a month program. And what we do is we help you write your story. We give you accountability. You meet with the group twice a month, and it's the second and fourth Tuesdays. We record those sessions so that even if you can't make it, we can review your items and give you positive feedback on that. And we have a very caring community of authors. Some of us are published, some of us are not, some of us are screenwriters. I mean, there's all kinds of different walks of life that are a part of that group. So that's kind of how I help people.
Yeah, and it's nice to have the, different perceptions, because I know I've heard different horror stories. There's a lot of people that say, "Oh, you have a story to tell, you should write this." But then again, you hear this other person that went through all of this, but maybe have lost thousands of dollars, and because
Mhm.
they didn't know something about either the legal or the writing. Um,
Precisely,
so it can
precisely.
be quite the rabbit hole or the journey to tackle it on your own.
And I do let people know that when they join this group, I have had people that eventually did publish their book. And when I looked at how long they had been with me, they ended up paying me something like $1,300 to $1,400, but it was in $37 increments a month, so they eventually did get their book published, but that was the cost. And so you don't have to pay that all up front, which is what is different about my program versus some others. Instead of having to pay for it all up front, trusting a publisher, all that kind of stuff, you can work with us at $37 a month and see if that's appropriate for you. And then if it's not, we're going to make sure we get you to a writing group that is good for you, because we don't want people changing your story. We don't want people telling you to change your characters if you don't want to change your characters, that kind of thing. Because like you, after writing 17 books and been through a lot of writing groups, I have had my personal experience as well as heard experiences that were not conducive to empaths writing their story. So we want to make sure we give them that safe environment.
Yeah, and that I think is huge too, because I've seen that also where, you write it, and of course you have those things people tell you that you shouldn't write the way you speak, other things other people say to write as you speak, it depends on where you go. But if your personality is a certain way and someone is trying to change it, and it's a book and it might be great, but it doesn't sound anything like you, then that's another problem and challenge too.
Mhm. And you're welcome to use ChatGPT if you want to, but we will let you know that it sounds like ChatGPT and that you need to have more of your voice there. Start using ChatGPT to write your outline or to throw some ideas around. I like to use it like Harry Potter's pen sieve, I like to use ChatGPT to throw all my thoughts together and maybe come up with some sort of a theme or an outline or something like that. But eventually, you are going to have to use your own words.
Yeah, I use AI myself, but I have a different platform where it takes Chat GPT and a whole bunch of others, and I can actually have it sound more like Oprah Winfrey, or to be positive and sensitive in this. And so
Mhm.
most of the times it gives me ideas, but I always read that first. And if I don't agree with it, or if that doesn't sound like me, I'm like, yeah, not using that one. But it gives me an idea, it'll help give you a direction. It has its place, I think.
It does have its place. And I have found on multiple occasions where it was just downright wrong. And so I always like to let people know, look, I've been around not long enough that when I get some advice from it, and I'm like, no, that is not what we do anymore. We used to do that back in 1995, but that's not something we do now. So you
Yeah.
do have to use quite a bit of intelligence when you're working with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for anyone interested or wanting, what is, besides your free coffee chat, is there a best way for people to get a hold of you? Or
They can find me through LinkedIn, and then my dear team member Lynette will reach out to them and invite them to Open Friday Coffee. That's really the best way. Now, if you can't get to Open Friday Coffee because you're working during that time or something, let Lynette know, and then she will let you know about the book launch that we're having. And she will also let you know about the Practical Mystics, which is we meet there once a month online after hours, after business hours. And so she can invite you to that as well. Just let her know, hey, I work, I can't get it to Open Friday Coffee, which is at 9 a.m. on Mountain Time. Can you help me sign up for the Practical Mystics? And we'll definitely serve you in that way.
And the other thing, I know we had a conversation about it the other day, but I will say one of the other things I really admire about you is that you always put relationships above and beyond everything else. There's not a lot of people that do that, but that is normally the most important part for you in any. It's not just a business transaction is what I'm saying. It's about the relationship and building relationships, and you really do stay in touch with people, and very heartfelt, and you always mean what you say. So I appreciate that.
You are most welcome. And I'm so thrilled that what Laura is alluding to is we had a huge miscommunication between my team and Laura. And I was like, I need to get on a Zoom meeting with this woman because I don't want to lose a friendship over a miscommunication. And I, believe it or not, I've had 3 Zoom meetings this week based on miscommunications. It must have been something in the air. I don't know what was going on, because my team is very good at being able to express themselves, but still things were happening. And so I had 3 Zoom meetings. Laura was one. And when we ended up getting on the Zoom meeting, we're like, hey, let's do this together. And so definitely stay tuned to the Practical Mystic Show. You may see Laura on there. Just saying.
Yeah, I think that is so exciting. I didn't even know you did that when we met. I thought that was really, really exciting.
You're welcome. And keep doing what you're doing. Keep shining that light. Keep giving that safe space to those empaths. They need it.
Thank you. Yeah, like I always said, we can do more together than we can by ourselves. So, and connecting with like-minded people's why I love doing what I do. So thank you also for being there to provide that space and to help them get their word out or get their word on paper, because that's not easy. All I've done is ever chaptered a chapter in a book, but still that was that was taxing enough. A book that's a little more daunting. Definitely. So do you have any other new things on the horizon that you want to share with anybody before we go?
I think the biggest thing that's on the horizon for me is just making sure that people know that there is a safe place to go. So whether you go to Laura's community and bring people into that community, I highly recommend that you stay tuned to this program, keep listening to it. She brings in quality people. And I'm not just saying that because she and I have clasped hands and met each other. I'm saying that because I've listened to several of her episodes. But the other thing is if you do not resonate with what's happening with what Laura is saying, would you reach out to her and let her know that you have a confusion of that? She would love to be able to define for you what she's saying. Miscommunications are happening a lot because sometimes we make assumptions that what we're saying, the other person understands the definition of all those words. But according to a cultural context, or if you're raised in the South and somebody's talking that's from New England, you're going to have that miscommunication. So be patient with each other and know that Laura is more than happy to explain to you what she is attempting to say. And sometimes it's just 1 or 2 words that can make all the difference. So give her a chance to explain herself.
Thank you. Not what I was expecting, but thank you. I appreciate that. I was gonna say, because you and I were talking, it's like I work with people in Australia and England and over in the UK and Canada, all over. And it's funny because we have these simple terms. And if you haven't been in that country or something, it can mean something totally different. But it's part of the fun of getting to know each other, I think.
Yeah, so we're all English speakers, but Emerson said it so well. And this was back in the 40s. Emerson said, England and America, 2 beautiful groups of people separated by a common language.
Yeah.
I love that.
The age-old debate of, no, I speak the right English. No, you do. Yeah, it's all English, but yeah, it's very different.
And then you bring in the Australians and the Canadians, and it becomes a lot more fun, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's always fun. It's always fun to learn. Well, I want to thank you, Janine, very much for taking the time to be on here. I truly hope anyone that is in the mystic realm or is thinking about writing a book, connect with Janine, connect with her Friday coffee chats, or get some questions answered. It's definitely a very affordable way to do it and not to just kind of wing it or lose thousands, or because I know there's a lot of different little traps you can get caught in, but from someone who's written 17 books and 93 online courses, that's just impressive. It's probably not your last either, I'm sure.
No, I don't think so. Once you create, it's like a potato chip. You just have to keep snacking.
You just need a little bit more.
Just a little bit more. Thank you, Laura. It's been an honor to be here.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for joining us. And I will make sure I have all of Janine's information in the comments. So make sure you reach out to her, and everyone have a great evening.